Hey Kyle,
Hey Riaz, how's it going?
really good. How are you, mate?
Yeah, very good. Very, very
Good.
good. Busy, trying to reintegrate into the United States here. So just
That's right. You just moved home, didn't you?
yeah,
How's it
well, not
going?
not. I mean, I guess the States is was home, and
Yeah.
yes, I'm back in America. This time instead of California, though, I'm in the great state of Texas. Let's go, Strategic Reserve Bitcoin Bill.
Be- Beautiful neighbors with Adrian, pretty
Yeah,
much,
that's
huh?
right. That's right. Yet to
Yeah.
visit the ranch yet, but it's on the checklist.
And you're going to be at Bitcoin Vegas next week?
Yep, going to Vegas. And for the first time in a long time at a conference, I've really limited my interviews and events and meetings, so I could. I mean, it's a really exciting event. If you look at the guests that are coming, it's like everybody who's in American politics that cares about crypto and Bitcoin is going to be there. So, pretty big deal.
Yeah, and it's going to be huge. And of course you're part of our CryptoKnights Live next week as well at DNA House. So excited to have you there. And
That's
I
good.
think
I have no idea which projects are going to be there, but I prefer it that way. You know.
no, it's always nice when it's a surprise, and we've lined up a few cool projects. And for those of you that are listening, we're doing a series of live events as well. So if you have a project you want to come and pitch to our nights, and we'll have some of the nights will be at all the locations. Some may not be at all, but you can come and pitch live in person, and you have the chance to either get an immediate investment if they love you that much, or you can be on the show. So either way, it's a win.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
mean, when we were in Dubai, I came a bit halfway through that one, but there was one that I came into that I was particularly interested in that was doing the space project, and so I'm not sure if they'll be on season 2 or not, but that seemed quite interesting.
Yeah, I like them too. Actually, I think that was very cool. I think it's called the Space Coin, from what I recall.
I think they should change the
Yeah.
name. But
Look, Kyle, thanks very much for making the time today. Love to kind of hear from you firsthand, how your journey has been partnering with CryptoKnights. I was super excited to have you on the show, and you and I have known each other for some time. And when the show came about, I thought, who better? Like you're an OG in this space. So, firstly, I'd love to hear more about your journey in crypto. Um, for those of our viewers that may not know it as well, and then maybe share a little bit about what the experience was like on the show as well.
yeah, sure. So I mean, it was quite a journey. I think that the first time that we briefly discussed it was back in COVID days, back in probably 2020, maybe like 2022 or something.
Yeah.
And, it was just a real early idea at that time. I mean, but the idea at the time made perfect sense. I mean, I've been wondering for years, why someone doesn't do a Shark Tank version of what we're doing, because every day I sit on calls and people are pitching me. And, my fiance, Jessica, who was also a guest night, uh, she'd always tell me, like, you need to have your calls like on YouTube or something like that, because they're very entertaining and you're very real and raw. When you start out, when you start out as an investor, and you take your, it's kind of like it's kind of in a way almost like making YouTube videos, which I have done a lot now. In the early days, like, you're gonna suck, and you're gonna overthink things, and you're gonna, and then with the pitching side of things, you're going to be, quite polite and wait for what they say. And even if you don't really have an interest, and then the more that you do it, the better you get, the more you're able to kind of dial things in, and the more that you try to get to the most important things really quickly. So, over the many, many years of investing in startups, I've learned how to, really get past the immediate kind of big red flags. And so, uh, you know, I think it says a lot about who was selected to be knights on the show. I know a lot of effort went into selecting them very carefully, us, I should say. And I think that shows when you watch the show that that we know how to ask the right questions, and yeah, so it was a journey, and I was skeptical at first for a while. You know, I didn't really know your background, and then first when you guys kind of with Joseph and gave me the whole rundown, the experience that you guys have had before, the shows that you've done before. Okay, I was like, this is, you know, this could be really, really good. And I wanted to make sure also, you know, it also took me a little while to buy in. I wanted to make sure that it was going to be a high quality production. And because, you know, it's, I want to be associated with something that of the highest kind of caliber and quality. So, the second that I showed up and stepped on that set, all concerns and thoughts went away. It was just a really amazingly crafted set. I think that it's close enough to Shark Tank to feel familiar, yet it's different enough to feel new and fresh. You know, there's a lot of things that Shark Tank doesn't have that CryptoKnights does, like the boiler room, for example, the progression into the finals, a winner. It puts a little bit more of like a competitive reality show into a Shark Tank environment, which I think is, you know, adapting to more modern times. That puts a little bit of competition in there and makes it exciting for people to watch through the whole thing to see, you know, who actually wins the entire season.
Thanks for that, Kyle. And I'm pretty sure audience would love to know, what do you look for in a project? It's like, you know, you've seen, yeah, you've looked at hundreds or maybe even thousands of projects over the years. So what are you looking for as an investor?
So I think really I'm looking for a team, and, you know, especially the founders, singular, or sometimes it's even really nice to see co-founders that have complementary skill sets, because it's rare. It's not impossible, but it's more rare to come across an individual founder who has the development and technical skills and the business acumen to really pull off what it takes to not only build something foundationally really solid, but also be able to get that narrative across a very competitive space when it comes to attention. So you need to, in this space, you need to kind of be strong in both. You need to be strong on the technical side, and you need to be strong on the business side of things and the marketing. So I think the founders are really important. And then for me, you know, I used to be really hardcore on this, drawing the line through equity and tokens, and making sure, I'm still very, very hardcore on understanding what are you asking for an investment, and how does a value accrual happen on that? If you generate revenue, if you generate traction, is that value that you're building, does it go into the token side of the business or the equity side of the business, or 50-50 or 60-40, 70-30? But I prefer when all value accrual happens in one vehicle. So oftentimes if a project, you know, doesn't need a token, I'll say, like, why do you have a token? You're better off just not having a token. Or better yet, you know, go through, hopefully we'll have some clarity in the States, but in other jurisdictions, go through and just say this is a security token and tokenize your equity, because that's what you're really trying to do. So I think there's a lot of confusion amongst founders on how this really works. That's another big one, because I want to make sure well, let me put this another way. I've invested in far too many companies in the past who come up with this pitch, and then I come to find out when they go to market 2 or 3 years later that the token that I invested into has no real utility or value accrual. And I, at the time, didn't know any better to make sure that I asked for equity, because I believe these founders that they were building something that was decentralized, where the token was necessary in the ecosystem. And that's just often not happening today. So, and then of course, product market fit is a really big one. Is this going to be useful if you're disrupting some sort of incumbent business that's very large? Is your product going to be 10 times better than the incumbent you're trying to disrupt? And that's really important too, because the switching costs are really high for people if they're really familiar with something, right? If you're already using, you know, Airbnb for all your stuff, you know, it's going to be a little bit less convenient to go and use a new app because it's not familiar. It doesn't have your saved credit card information, doesn't have your saved profile, your reviews. So switching costs just becomes more inconvenient. So I will go use an Airbnb competitor. I shouldn't even say Airbnb because they banned me for some reason. I'll just use VRBO. Boycott Airbnb, please. Probably because I was using crypto or something like that, you know? Like every other centralized platform that has banned me so far for using crypto. But anyway, so I think that in order to truly disrupt something, you have to be building something much better. And that is the beautiful thing about decentralized technology, is it's supposed to be, and if it's done properly, it's far more efficient than a centralized counterparty, because the centralization aspect is a middleman. And the whole point of a permissionless, open, decentralized, peer-to-peer blockchain is that peer-to-peer aspect. And the rest of the thing just makes sure that the peer-to-peer transactions can happen in a permissionless way. So when you remove the middleman, you remove that value extraction that happens between the two parties trying to do business together. And that just makes a better system for both parties involved. In the Uber example or Airbnb, you're removing the profit that those guys take, and either the landlord is getting more for their rental, and the tenant is paying less for it, right? Because you're saving that cost. So so disruption is really interesting, and I do believe, I'm in the camp of that. I do believe that that it's just going to take the world some time to understand what smart contracts do. The world's only waking up to Bitcoin now, and Bitcoin is a pretty foreign concept. Smart contracts are even more abstract, and the infrastructure for smart contracts have been really difficult and burdensome. So now that's improving with things like SWI and account abstraction. So really, it's hard. It is hard as a startup in this world to make it. Probably today, maybe even harder in crypto than the traditional world. I'm not sure, but so it's hard. So I look for founders, product market fit, and then making sure that my investment is in the right vehicle.
Yeah, and we saw that quite a lot on the show, actually. I love the way you just cut through all the bullshit and kind of go, where's the value accrual? Do you really need a token? And I think I like the way you break it down into its fundamentals, and it gets the projects to kind of think about it as well, which is beneficial to them. It's not really criticism. It's like they get to think, okay, what are we really doing here? And am I executing the right way in that sense? So I feel the show does that justice. And I also like the way you've kind of broken down concepts on the show itself for the audience so that they get it. Because we're going to have a lot of newbies watching the show, right? The show is on Prime Video. It's going to reach millions and millions of people. And my vision mission on this journey has been, how do we bring the next billion people into crypto? And I think entertainment is the way to do that. So us being able to work together and do this, this is the bridge I think that we've been looking for.
Yeah, I think that so each night, just like on similar to Shark Tank, I think each night has their unique value proposition where they're really good at, right? I mean, Brock just has so much experience in the things that he's done in gaming, in different sectors, raising money, these kind of things. And Nikita, in PR marketing, for example, Magnus, he's just sees a lot of different he kind of knows accelerator model, and so knows if a product might fit in there and how their network can support. Ali, very good on the kind of traditional side. He's really saves me a lot of times, not just on the show, but in real life. He'll often help me, and we'll negotiate deals together. And then for me, it's really on the token side, and how is the token going to work and accrue value, and what kind of mechanisms can we build into this protocol to make sure the token is useful within the ecosystem. And to your point, I've been watching the show. I'm only about halfway through the season now, and I think that we can learn some things from season one, right? I think that watching it back, I think that even though we've done our best, and I like the way that we put captions in there, right? What does TGE mean, and what does this mean, investing, and these kind of things. Mm-hmm. So an audience that's watching it, they may not understand everything the first time around, but the more that you watch episodes, the more that you hear these things, the more that you're going to learn how to be an investor, the more that you're going to learn how to ask the right questions. There's a few really good things about the show. One is, for those who are interested in becoming investors, there's an educational part there. They can see what kind of questions we're asking from, very seasoned, experienced investors who are invested in the biggest companies and some of the biggest companies in the world. Like, I invested in Coinbase, which just went in the S&P 500. So I think that they can learn a lot, and then there's entertainment value. And I just watching it back, I after the fact, there's a lot of parts where I was laughing out loud, and just some pretty great moments.
Are there any particular highlights that you want to share with the viewers, or a sneak peek for those that haven't watched the show?
Well, I'll tell you, like, again, Ali to come in and save the day sometimes, there was this project Tortoise that came up, and I was really I was fascinated because I never heard of what is this trading method that they do? I don't know. It's this trading house that they were building, whatever it was called. I never heard it before because I'm not really a trader, and it's not my wheelhouse. So they're telling me this stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, interesting. Tell me more. No, that sounds really good. And then Ali steps in and just goes, he pulls out his pocket, a $10 trillion note or something from Zimbabwe, and just
100 trillion actually.
100 trillion, rips it up in front of him and says, "This is what your project's worth." I was like, oh, I guess I'm not investing in that one either, yeah. So that was, I think that was my favorite moment of the whole season, because he was saving that for somebody, and he knew somebody was going to deserve it, and he put that out. So
it's funny, it's like I was talking to Ali the other day, and I said, dude, do you actually just carry this check with you all the time, or what? And he said, I actually do, because it's kind of a reminder of what the traditional financial system can turn into. And that's why he just happened to have that check in that moment. It wasn't even planned. So
the bill, yeah.
Yeah, the bill, yeah, indeed. So yeah, that was a great moment. We had some amazing highs and lows. I loved the way how the boiler room shaped up as well, and I think we're going to take that to the next level in season 2. Because I think we learn from every single season of the show, right? This show has been, as you said, this conceptually we've been talking about it since 2022, and then the show came to life because of the RightStream platform, because that's where we were looking to see how we will fund this, and then I created the RightStream platform to actually help creators bring their project ideas to life. And the show is partially funded through on the platform, and through that process, it's been a journey, working with our production crews, etc., over the years, and fine tuning what this can be. And I'm super proud of the end product, but of course it can go to another level. And Kyle, I know you've been a supporter of ours for a long time. I know you hold some right tokens yourself as well, so thank you for that, and thank you for supporting the journey.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and add into that. When you finally said this is when it stepped on stage, I'm like, okay, finally, because I've been holding these things for quite a long time, these tokens, and it's just nice. It was nice to see, and it is nice to see, a business that I've been supporting and holding for a long time that actually comes to life and bringing something that's actually really attempting to do mainstream, right? And it's a different way. A lot of people think, what's that killer app that's going to bring mainstream adoption? And most people will say gaming, but I think a lot of people forget about media and how we can build a show that attracts millions and millions of eyeballs, and by that bringing those people on chain, because it's different than, it's another way it's different than Shark Tank, right? Shark Tank, I've watched a lot of episodes of Shark Tank, and there's a lot of times on there where I'm like, man, I would like to invest in that company, and it hasn't been possible before to do that. And now we're watching these projects where they do public token launches, and they're going to get to learn on the show, because I'm going to ask those questions. Is this token that the people watching this show are able to buy when this thing starts trading on the open market? Are they accruing value? And of course, everybody should be doing their own research and due diligence before making a purchase of any token. But at least with CryptoKnights, we're talking to projects that are going to launch something that is going to be publicly available, in the not too distant future, or may already be publicly available. So it allows the viewers to, see if they like the idea, and then they themselves can literally put themselves in an investor seat from their couch at home, watch the TV, and then go on X and follow the account of whoever that just pitched the project. And if they like them, follow them, see what's doing, go to the AMAs. And eventually, if you feel comfortable enough, then you have the rights to go and purchase that token on the open market or on a public sale that might happen on a platform. So one of the projects that was on on season 1 was Blue Whale, Han, right? And every time I talk to Han, it's just more bullish news. This guy is he's just
phenomenal. He's on
fire.
fire.
He's on fire, and he's such a good person, and I like talking to him. So they're doing their public sale with us on paid network and partnered with CryptoKnights Launchpad as well. And I'm really excited for that because people can go watch Han's pitch right now on Prime Video and see why we were all so impressed with his background, his co-founder, the technology that they're building, the right narrative. And I know that's going to happen probably within the next 30 days or so. I just had a call with him like 2 days ago to help prepare. But that's the really, I think, one of the coolest things about what CryptoKnights is doing. It gives the audience an inside view at these projects and lets them see the pitch, because normally they never get to see the pitch, right? They just see these tokens trading on the secondary market. They never get to be in what we call the primary investor seat, right? Primary means the first markets, the markets before a publicly traded asset or token or security or whatever. And so they never get to see these pitches from the founders of the value proposition of why people should invest and buy into this vision of the founders. And so now they can. And that's something I've always desired from Shark Tank and was left wanting that. And now it's possible.
Yeah, 100%. And, where else can you actually get early entry into a $1 billion project like a Blue Whale, right? It's like,
we'll see.
all
I
those
hope it's
projects. You know what? I love what Han is doing. I mean, I genuinely believe it's going to be a $1 billion project. So, keeping fingers crossed. Of course, we back the founders that are on the show.
Yeah.
And I hope he does extremely well. But I believe in his thesis, and I think he's onto something really, really cool.
Well, there's a lot of really great ideas that came on the show. Some not so great, but some really great ones too. I think, someone like Mike, who came on and pitched decentralized insurance. Like, if you just look on ChatGPT and find out, how much money insurance companies make, and when you think about, again, what I talked about before, removing middlemen from transactions, removing middlemen. So when you create an open, free market for people to insure things themselves, that gets really, really interesting. And the potential for that market is absolutely behemoth. And I don't really see too many other people trying to approach that problem. So, we got some really interesting prospects on season 1.
Yeah, Mike is a great founder. When I saw what he pitched, I thought, wow, why has no one done it? This is like, it's sitting there for the taking, right?
Well, they have, right? They have. And that's why he was struggling for a while, because he actually before did a project called Bridge Mutual, which I was also an investor in, and invested in, got my tokens, held them, and that ended up going under. And so sometimes you end up seeing founders and who come back, and it's in a way unfortunate that they don't apply the new stuff to what they had already built, fix the problems, what's the problem, and pivot and adjust. But I guess sometimes it just makes sense to pull the plug when you need to start over. And in this case, I backed him a second time. And I think that a lot of people would say, man, that guy lost all your money before. Why would you give them money again? Well, because first-time founders are more than likely almost always fail, right? And the second time that they're a founder, they're a little bit less likely to fail. And the third time they're a founder, they're less likely to fail. 9 out of 10 businesses fail. So if you're willing to try over again 10 times, likely you're going to make it. And so he went back to the same industry that he's already been in, very familiar with it, saw a lot of problems with what he built, a lot of problems with the way that he launched a token, a lot of problems with everything. And he's gone in and apparently has fixed all these things. And so I put some more money in again, and we'll see what happens again.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to watching that journey as well. And I'm hoping that, through the series, that we do discover a couple of unicorns, and that the audience can participate in these unicorns as well. And our goal, of course, is season on season to improve that, and find great projects, great founders. Now that people understand what this show is about, like when you're trying to pitch a show, even to projects when it's on paper, it's really hard. They say, "What is this thing?" and they don't get it. But now people can see it in real life, and the fact that we can create something that is amazing. And next season, we're making a few tweaks that'll take it to the next level and keep it even more engaging.
Well, I think that I forgot what I was going to say, actually.
That's okay, all good. I'm going to have a look at our comments here to see if there's any particular burning questions we need to address. This wasn't meant to be a Q&A kind of session, but in case there's anything that sparks interesting conversation, I'll put it up here. Okay, here's an interesting one for you, Kyle.
Yep.
Kyle, do you think normal Web 2 people will understand the show language?
Yeah, so I touched on that earlier, but I think we do a pretty good job at putting the captions up there for the things that wouldn't be obvious to a normal Web 2 audience or a traditional audience. And I believe, like, so for example, my mom has watched some episodes already, and just like my YouTube videos, she understands some episodes better than others. And I was beginning to touch on that earlier in the conversation. I think I got sidetracked, but I think that there was some lessons learned, hopefully from us as Knights and you guys as producers and picking the projects. Unfortunately, even some projects that are fantastic probably won't be good fits for the show, just because it's not going to make the best television. And our goal is to make great television, right? That's the goal of the show, is to make it entertaining. And so when we get projects that are too technical, then the audience is going to have a hard time understanding what this does, right? And so I think that we really need to hone in, both from your side and our side, and figure out how do we make. And I know that you guys did a lot of effort in working with projects to help them figure out how to make the pitch as easy to understand as possible for the audience, and I think that from us as Knights, when we're engaging with them live, when what's happening, we need to simplify the types of responses that we have, simplify some of the stuff. On the flip side, no, not everyone's going to understand everything all the time, but that's crypto. Web 2 people don't understand a lot of it, but that's kind of the point of the show in one way too. It's to get people to adopt, get people to learn. It's another entry point for people to come in and figure out what is this space all about, and how does it work, and how do you invest, and why does this project have 1 billion tokens and this other one only has 100 million, and the other one has 46 trillion, and then what does it mean if a token's at 1 cent or 10 cents, and these kind of things, and what is a fully diluted valuation versus like the initial market cap. And these are things that are quite important to know when someone's taking their hard-earned cash, which respectively, a lot of people that are going to be watching this show, that's what they do. They work really hard for their money. And so it's precious, and there's far too many traps in this space to capture those people, who work really hard for their money, and lure them in through some shiny object or some influencers who are paid to promote this thing that's garbage, and use these poor people who come into our space uneducated, and end up being exit liquidity for the people who are, intentionally extracting value. And so the more that one educates themselves, the less difficult and painful it will be entering into our crypto markets. And it's always a painful journey. I think everyone who comes in and has some thick skin and understands that you have to have risk management will come in. And then remember, guys, the goal is always do not invest more than you're willing to lose, because a loss is almost certainly inevitable. And so I just think that this is a good education platform. So to answer the question again, I do think in some cases in season 1, there was some parts that if we could have gone back, maybe would have made them a little bit more clear for the audience. I think a lot of episodes, though, a lot of pitches that I saw were perfect for the audience, and I think they'll be able to understand them. So, so I think that's a really good point, and I think it's something that we'll have in the back of our minds on season 2 to make sure that it's even more digestible for everyone watching.
Thank you, Kyle, and absolutely spot on that we want to bring authenticity into the space, and that's why the projects that we select, they've carefully curated so that they have relevance to the end audience, and we've got solid founders behind them, so that there aren't rug pulls. That we can be confident that if our audience members invest in these, then at least we have done a degree of DD on the projects before they go on the show. And I think watching the Knights interact with the projects as well, that's a great education in itself as well, what the Knights are actually looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the same logic that I have applied to what we do. For people who don't know me, I also build crypto companies, and crowdfunding is my forte. That's what I've done. I have 2 companies in crypto, one Paid Network, one Commonwealth, and they are both sit at different levels of early stage investing. But the whole purpose of both of them is to democratize access to the 99% to early stage investing in crypto space. And recently there's been a new narrative in crypto called internet capital markets. I think that someone who was able to pull off one of these things where they create a new narrative, and it captured a lot of attention. But what that was it was allowing anybody to create a token with just a simple tweet, and the tokens don't have any real value accrual mechanism to them. So it's really, they're saying that you're trading the future potential of this company who's launching this token, but it's bad because there's no vetting, right? And so what you guys have done is you guys do the first round of vetting from the production side, and then it goes to the Knights. And in Commonwealth, we have a similar vetting structure. So Commonwealth is early stage investing platform where we have a council. Think of them kind of like Knights. And so the deals have to come through the council to get proposed to these different funds that people can invest into. And that shows, people can look up who is the council member, who is the oracle, what we call them, that is bringing the deal. So the same thing can be held on CryptoKnights, where you have these different Knights with different personalities. You can go and you can look them up and say, okay, well, what has Kyle done? What makes him, good at assessing a project? They can go to my webpage, they can go to our fund sites, and they can see the projects that we've invested into. Same thing for Ali, same thing for Brock, et cetera, et cetera. So you guys vet round 1, and then in another sense, we vet round 2.
Yep, 100%. There's a couple of other interesting questions. I'll just do 2 more. Do you see yourself developing a layer 1 or a layer 2, Kyle?
No, no, not now. And certainly it wouldn't be something that tries to compete in the space with others. I think that the situation where I would potentially do something like that would be when either of these platforms, Paid or Commonwealth, and I think Commonwealth is further along on the journey of a path to decentralization. It's both projects' intention to get to a decentralized state. But if it happens to be in a place where there's a need to create some sort of layer 1 or layer 2 because of customization of what the protocol needs, then we may do it. But I think I don't think that's a likely path. I think it's really hard to compete in that space right now. And there's so many other fantastic layer 1 options out there, right? Like I think someone like Sui, for example, has already built the end game. I don't know that you need a better layer 1 blockchain than that. It can handle way more transactions per second than anyone would ever need. It was, originally the R&D was all done from Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, those guys. And yeah, so it's a phenomenal layer 1. So I don't think that I would certainly never start a layer 1 or layer 2 that was meant to be a base layer for people to come build on top of. If I ever do one day, it would probably be one of these kind of layer 1 or layer 2 as a service that makes it real easy to spin out, already been battle tested, already works really well. And then we would just have our app. It would be like an app. They're called app chains, right? So it's a layer 1 or layer 2 that really is built for specific use case, and that's really it. I'm not trying to bring other projects onto the chain, for example.
Thank you. And the final question on a lighter note, Kyle, you run so many companies. How do you find time to work out? You have a godlike body.
It wasn't always this way. It wasn't always this way for sure. I think that it's an interesting question, because I'll tell you, even a year ago, probably, or 18 months ago, 18 months ago, I guess, I would have probably been the person who was on a call saying, "Oh, like, how you doing? Oh, I'm all right. I only got 3 hours of sleep last night. You know, I was working all night long," or something like that. I used to put in those crazy 20-hour days, and I don't think that that's necessary or healthy. Why? Because you don't cognitively function properly or well when you're sleep deprived. And so I used to be in the longevity space before crypto. 13 years ago, in 2013, I sold my longevity company and bought Bitcoin. And and when I got into the Bitcoin or the crypto space, and especially around circa 2018, it was crazy, networking like crazy. I was every single major crypto conference around the world, and they were nonstop. And so I was flying all over the world, going to after events, going to after parties, staying up late, waking up early, and it just wrecked myself. And to give the viewer some context, there's a test that you can do. It's called a telomere test, and I won't explain exactly what it is, but essentially it's a way that a lab, without knowing who the sample came from, can take your blood and get a pretty good idea biologically how old that person is. And I did the first test last year when I was 39, and it came back as age 51. So I was 11 years biologically older than my chronological age. Scary. I've done, so I've been absolutely on a mission to reverse the damage that I'd done to my body. And so I've managed to now get my biological age, last time I checked, which was like 4 or 5 months ago, down to 46. I'm 40 years old right now. And then Whoop just came out with their 5.0, and it says Whoop gives me a biological age of 41 and a half. So we'll see. But the point is that I want to get that even further. And so I would just tell people that, you need to prioritize these things, because if you getting 8 hours of sleep a night, like solid 8 hours of sleep, which means you have to be in bed for 8.5 hours or whatever, it's really important. And then exercising is really important too. So if you do these two things, sleep well, exercise at least 5 days a week. It could be 25 minutes. It can be 45 minutes. It can be an hour and a half. It doesn't matter. These things are going to get your brain going. They're going to get your endorphins and serotonin and these kind of things that make you feel good and give you the energy that you need to be super productive. I can be hyper productive now in an 8-hour day or 6-hour day, as I used to be working 20-hour days.
Fantastic. Actually, that was really good. More than what I expected to hear. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
I think we're probably a little bit over time now. So thank you very much, Kyle, for joining us today. Really appreciate your support and look forward to the journey ahead with you.
Season 2. Let's go.
Season 2. Woohoo. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye, Riaz. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye.